ADPEM will shortly roll out its national hurricane preparedness program, and our disaster coordinators have been doing all the things necessary to secure shelters during the period.
Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie there updating the nation on plans for the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season, which starts tomorrow. It's predicted that this season will be an active one with 13 to 20 named storms, 3 to 5 of them expected to become major hurricanes. We want you to be prepared, so be sure to visit adpem.org.jm for hurricane tips. Your Jamaica Magazine program continues with a word of advice, followed by the news.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Monday, May 31, 2021. Jamaica has received another batch of COVID-19 vaccines containing 55,200 doses manufactured by AstraZeneca. The shipment, which is also part of the COVAX facility, arrived on Sunday at the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston. The supply will be used to inoculate persons who are due their second dose, as well as groups being targeted for vaccination. Persons eligible to be vaccinated include Jamaicans 50 years and older, healthcare workers, members of the JCF, JDF, and Jamaica Fire Brigade, along with staff members from PICA, Jamaica Customs Agency, and the Department of Correctional Services. Up to Friday, May 28, approximately 155,683 Jamaicans have received the first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, while 22,206 persons have received their second dose. Meanwhile, Jamaica's COVID care program has received a donation of 11,339 food packages and 30 tablet computers valued at $1.06 million. The United Nations World Food Program has donated the items to the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. Portfolio Minister Carl Samuda says the food packages will be distributed across the country to vulnerable households affected by the pandemic, particularly the elderly. The computers will support the registration and verification of potential beneficiaries. During a tour of the ministry's warehouse on Friday, he said the assistance was a welcomed addition to the ministry's own food program for needy persons.
The effects of the COVID-19 can be quite devastating, especially on the workforce. Therefore, anything that contributes to the sustenance of the family is welcome.
The tourism product development company TPDCO has withdrawn the COVID-19 compliance certification for an entertainment venue, Rick's Cafe, with immediate effect. It follows an order from the local government ministry for the cafe to be closed for 7 days. The management of the entertainment venue has also been summoned to a meeting with officials from that ministry and ADPEM. The actions stem from news reports that the venue, which is located in Negril, Westmoreland, breached the government's COVID-19 protocols by staging an event called Mocha Fest. The venue will be required to undergo a recertification exercise to ensure strict adherence to the health and safety protocols before it can be allowed to accept visitors again. In the meantime, Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says such actions will not be tolerated within the industry. He argues that the breach undermines the protocols that were created and the Tourism Resilient Corridor program, which have gained international recognition. Mining Minister Robert Montague says government has made further amendments to the mining lease governing the cockpit country to address concerns raised by stakeholders. Minister Montague gave the update while making his contribution to the sectoral debate in Parliament recently. He says government has modified the special mining lease SML 173, resulting in 6,000 hectares of land being removed from the original document to be replaced by additional lands. The decision was made following meetings with residents and other stakeholders to explore their complaints.
By replacing what was removed, we have satisfied not only the provisions of the law, but the establishment agreement and the conditions of the license. Madam Speaker, our Prime Minister has led from the front on this matter, and his steadfast and steady hands have created balance between the concerns of the company and our agreement and the demands of the people, and the Prime Minister must be commended.
Minister Montague says discussions are also underway with citizens of St. Anne and the owners of the Bengal development to identify suitable lands to pursue limestone mining in the area. And finally, the Jamaican and Cuban governments have signed an agreement to extend bilateral cooperation in education. The agreement was recently signed at the Ministry of Education's National Hero Circle offices in Kingston. It provides for continued professional and academic support from Cuban teachers in the Jamaican school system.
We at the ministry are happy to see this program extended, and our hope is that it will continue to redound to the benefit of the two countries.
The education minister says there are 86 Cuban teachers now working at 78 schools from the primary to tertiary level. Approximately 438 Cuban teachers and professors have offered their services in Jamaica since 1997. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
For those of us who do not believe that COVID is real and that it is here, have you been to one of those hospitals where the wards are overflowing with patients who are trying to breathe and talk at the same time, but find it so impossible to do so? Or have you seen someone die in front of you, trying to make the next breath to stay alive? So my fellow Jamaicans and colleagues, whether you believe it or not, COVID is real. So I implore you, social distance. Wash your hands, wear your mask, sanitize. Along with that, we need to keep our immune system nice and healthy, so you drink lots of water, eat your fruits and vegetables. But whether we believe it or not, COVID is here, it is here to stay, it's going to be the new norm. And remember, when you behave irresponsible, you expose all of us. So do the responsible thing.
As we told you at the top of the show, the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season officially starts on June 1 and will run until November 30. As we gear up for an above normal period, here's a look at how the Met Office, with the help of international partners, tracks storms.
Hurricane Matthew is still a Category 4 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale. It is continuing to move northward, which takes it closer and closer to Jamaican waters. More information is coming out from the Hurricane Center.
The Atlantic hurricane season runs from June 1 through to November 30. These dates historically describe the period when most tropical cyclones form in the Atlantic basin. A number of tools are used, like satellites, radars, and computer models, to determine where a hurricane will go and how intense it will be. But a critical part of forecasting is done by the specially equipped NOAA aircrafts called Hurricane Hunters, which collect data through high-flying meteorological stations.
That will be transmitted back to the Hurricane Center and then made available to all the region, including Jamaica.
WC-130J Hercules is a high-wing, medium-range aircraft used in weather reconnaissance missions. This plane is configured to penetrate tropical disturbances and storms, as well as hurricanes and winter storms, and get data on the movement, size, and intensity of these systems. The NOAA Gulfstream model, nicknamed Gonzo, is a high-tech, high-flying, and high-speed twin-engine jet that flies around and over developing tropical cyclones to create a detailed picture of the surrounding upper atmosphere. It has a range of nearly 4,000 nautical miles and a cruising altitude of 45,000 feet. The Lockheed model, nicknamed Kermit, is in a class by itself. Formulated with unique scientific instrumentation, radars, and recording systems, the Kermit is able to do horizontal and vertical scans of storms.
So we'll have two meteorologists sit up front there. The person in the left seat is usually verifying the dropson data that we're collecting. The person on the right is helping with navigation. The station behind that is where our radar operator sits. So we've got a radar in the nose and a radar in the tail collecting data for us. This is where all of our data systems reside. And then back here is where we're actually dropping the sondes. So we'll prepare one of the sondes here, pass it over to that guy. He'll prepare it there just so we have a backup just in case this computer goes dead or that computer goes dead. Once the sonde is ready to go, close the door.
Cutting through the eye wall of a hurricane, lashed by extreme winds, dazzling rain, and fierce updrafts and downdrafts before entering the calm of the storm, probing every wind and pressure change during the course of 8 to 10 hours. So why aren't these aircrafts torn apart during these flights? Well, they are generally not destroyed by strong winds while in flight. It's the sheer or sudden change in horizontal or vertical winds that can destroy an aircraft or cause its loss of control. That's why NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft don't fly through tornadoes, but they are always monitoring for hotspots of severe weather and shear that they can often identify on radar and avoid if it's too severe.
We are always in direct communication with the National Hurricane Center. As soon as they get the information, we speak to them, they tell us what is happening, and so when we are ready to issue a warning, if we feel that we are threatened, we communicate that to the Hurricane Center. We are ready to issue a warning, what do you think? And we take that decision and they make it public to all the countries, not only in the region, but even wider than that through the internet and other means.
It's the last day of Child Month, but the care and protection of our children does not stop there. It extends all year round. We've compiled some tips that you can use to keep you and your family safe.
Limiting our household's risk to COVID-19 has increased our storage and use of certain products, which may be harmful when misused. Disinfectants such as bleach, rubbing alcohol, vinegar, and hand sanitizers, though used increasingly to protect against the novel coronavirus COVID-19, can cause poisoning. So too the misuse of medication, dish soap and laundry detergent, toilet and drain cleaners, polishes and waxes, all-purpose cleaners, insect sprays as well as shampoos and conditioners, nail polish and nail polish removers, makeup and lotions. Once you've used sanitizers such as bleach, store in a cupboard with a lock. If items are discarded in the bin, take out the garbage promptly as fumes may build. Children should always be supervised when using soap and hand sanitizers. If you've used cleaners to sanitize children's toys, be sure to let them air dry before they are returned, and keep cleansers in their original bottles, not in food containers. Never mix household cleaners as they can cause noxious fumes. When using certain chemicals such as bleach, turn on the fan. Open doors and windows to aerate the area. And be sure to wear gloves, long-sleeve shirts, long pants, socks and shoes when using certain chemicals such as pesticides. Improper use of prescription and over-the-counter medication, multivitamins and other pharmaceuticals could result in organ damage or death. It's especially important to properly store these and other potentially harmful substances away from children's reach. Store medication in a chest. Don't share prescription medication. Never take more than the recommended dose of medication. Before administering medication, properly read labels. Store medication in its original container, and be sure to dispose unused and expired prescription drugs. A member of your household may be suffering from poisoning if he or she has burns or redness around the mouth and lips or along the hands and legs, smells of chemicals, has difficulty breathing, nausea, diarrhea or vomiting, is experiencing drowsiness or confusion, dizziness, blurred vision or headache, as well as rapid heart rate or low blood pressure. If you see these symptoms, call the police 119 numbers or the Caribbean Poison Information Network at 876-537-5564. When you make contact, be sure to have the age and sex of the person, the poison taken, and the symptoms the person is exhibiting. While you wait for help to arrive, here are some tips you can use. If the poison has been ingested, remove anything that's still in the victim's mouth. Don't induce vomiting or give the victim a drink or food unless told to do so by emergency responders. For eyes which have come in contact with poison, open and close eyes while rinsing with low-pressure water for at least 15 minutes. Victims of inhaled poison should be taken to get fresh air immediately. And those who've been exposed to poisoning on the skin, remove contaminated clothing and rinse skin for at least 15 minutes. We know these are trying times, and with children being at home throughout the day, their curious nature is increased and they go exploring. That's why it's important that as a family, we are extremely vigilant in ensuring our children are properly supervised and cleaners and medicine are stored out of their reach.
Is your facility approved for COVID-19 testing? The Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, through the JANAC Accreditation or Pre-Accreditation Approval Program, validates labs and point-of-care testing facilities such as medical centers. Accreditation safeguards the quality of test results and consumer well-being. Use a JANAC-accredited or PAP-approved facility for your tests, and let's defeat COVID-19 together. Contact the Jamaica National Agency for Accreditation, confirming competence, providing confidence in the marketplace.
Safeguard your child or ward from this infection through frequent and proper hand washing. Find out more next.
Deworming is the process of giving worm medicine to an individual to get rid of parasites such as roundworm and tapeworm. While the focus is usually on children, adults should also be dewormed. Consultant pediatrician at the Bustamante Hospital for Children, Dr. Sandrika Young-Peart, tells us why this process is important, signs to look for, and the impact of these worms to our health.
When we talk about worms, we're talking about multiple different types. We may talk about the roundworm, the pinworm, or we can talk about the whipworm. And these are just some of the few worms that exist. The worms can actually cause a disease burden on our society, and the complications of having worm infestations are numerous and problematic. It affects how our children may concentrate and may be able to learn. There are actually documented findings that it actually affects your cognitive and your physical development and your ability to concentrate in school. And so it's actually important that we actually rid our children of these parasites. According to the WHO, approximately 800 million children are actually affected by worms each year. So what are some of the signs that a person may have worms? Symptoms could be what we commonly think about, like grinding of the teeth. They may be itching their anus, right? They may actually have weight loss. They may feel very tired and fatigued. And these are just some of the symptoms that may give you an indication that your child may have worm. They may not have any signs at all. Or they can have other signs and symptoms, such as vomiting, abdominal swelling or distension, diarrhea, or constipation. If the worms actually form balls, they can actually block the intestines, and that can either cause constipation and cause the child to vomit. They can also present with wheezing, and we may think they are actually asthmatics, but it's actually the worms that have
migrated into the lungs to cause obstruction of the airway and cause the child to wheeze. So how do they get infected? They may get infected either by eating or drinking contaminated water or food, if there is inadequate or improper waste disposal, and if we don't wash our hands before we eat or drink food. And there's a particular worm that you can actually get if you actually walk barefooted. So that is also something to bear in mind. And so it's actually important that we actually give our children worm medicine so we can actually target getting rid of these worms and actually reducing the worm burden in our society. You can deworm your children twice per year. You should actually give them worm medicine, and all the persons who are in the household should also get the worm medicine at the same time. It is important that our adults also be treated or dewormed, because we can be asymptomatic, meaning that we don't have any symptoms at all, but we can still be carriers of worms. And when we excrete or pass our feces, especially sometimes when we do it inappropriately, we may pass out the eggs of these worms. Then our cows or our poultry or pigs may actually ingest these when they feed. And then that's a vicious cycle. And should our children be playing in the areas where waste is inadequately disposed, then they too can actually pick up the eggs or the larvae on their fingers. And if they don't wash their hands before they eat, or while they're in the midst of playing, they may actually put their fingers in their mouth, then they too can actually ingest these worms. So how can you prevent your child from getting worms? It's difficult, but there are some basic tips that we can actually do to reduce the chance of our children getting these serious worm infections and having the complications. It's basic hand washing before eating our food, allowing our children not to walk barefooted, allowing our children not to play with the pets, especially if their pets are not treated quite frequently. And importantly, proper hygiene. Ensure that our waste is disposed properly. So it's pretty important that we all get on board as adults so we can actually reduce the worm burden and the impact on our society.
Some things we may say.
No. Thank you. Goodbye. Excuse me.
Yes. Please. Hello. I'm sorry.
Wanna play? What's up? Stop. What's a Wi-Fi password?
Come. Wait. Where's the bathroom? What's your name?
Drink. Water. What's the name of your school? Where's the town?
Taxi, bus park, shop.
How to get a deaf person's attention. Don't shout at me. Don't throw anything at me. That's dangerous. You can walk beside me and touch me on my shoulder lightly, or you can wave at me. If I'm in a room, you can flicker the lights.
Maintain eye contact. Ensure you're looking directly at the person you're speaking with. Try not to let your eyes wander. Also, it's best to communicate in a room that has good lighting. If it's too dark, communication will be difficult.
Please, make sure you don't have anything in your hands when you're talking to me.
If you cannot sign, you can write, draw, show a picture, or text.
Another way you can communicate with me is by using gestures. You can use your body and your hands to speak. For example, if you don't know the sign for bus, you could use this sign. If you don't know the sign for stop, you could use this gesture.
That's all the time we have for you on this station. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for another information-filled show. Join us at your leisure online. There's our website, our social media pages, YouTube, and of course, our mobile app that's smartphone compatible. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson, reminding you to get your COVID-19 vaccine when it's your turn. Do stay safe.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.